everyone. Let's get dangerous. Who are you talking to?
No one. Your mama. Shut up. Take your pick.
It's Jake Ciely.
He's opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in fantasy, tales of the ranks.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No. Burn.
Game on, you ducks. It is week 14 of the fantasy football season, and it took damn near long enough to have today's guest on. Honestly, if you've listened to the intro as many times as you have by now, I think the last time I saw his beautiful face in person, Jericho was making lists still at that time. That's how long it's been. As Florio left the East Coast for the West Coast, it is Michael Florio, the one that shouldn't ever change his name because he's the better one, at Michael F. Florio on the Twitter machine over there at NFL Network, as he left what I like to call when you were my little brother over here on the East Coast and you're growing up so much better that, like, I mean, I'm at the Athletic and you're like, you know what? I'm going to show Jake. I'm going to the NFL Network. Like, kudos to, like, for everybody that, like, Florio, I want to get a shout out, like, just for you in general, just because when I first started, Florio was legit, like, intern level. And like took this opportunity at the NFL Network just to work there doing grunt work, not being full-time, and has moved his way all up to now. You've seen him on TV, on the podcast, everything over there full-time, rocking it out with Marcus Grant and everybody else over there. Like, so if there's a testament to putting in the legwork, like I know people ask me that all the time, Florio is another one that has done it from day one.
Well, Jake, I'm going to need you to follow me around and just introduce me to people, because that was the nicest introduction I think I've ever had in my life. So
even more so than Nando?
Oh, yeah. Nando is the exact opposite. Nando likes to tell people horrible things about me and stuff like that. But before you got me all sentimental, I was going to say that your intro, I have never heard an intro song that encapsulates the host personality more than that one.
I appreciate that. I mean, as long as you know me, then yes, you know that's exactly like I built it myself. I made it from scratch with the DuckTales theme song in the background, a guitar riff, and then all these clips from the different shows. But yes, I'm not just here to talk about the gloriousness of Michael Florio. We are going to talk Week 14 waivers, which involves some non-gloriousness stuff. Just made that a word, non-gloriousness. Before we get into it, like I want to make sure, like, so people can check you out. Of course, the podcast and everything, but like times, what to look for, all that type of stuff that you got going on over there.
Yeah, Fantasy Live, 3 p.m. Pacific, so 6 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays and Fridays, sometimes on Thursdays as well. You catch me on there. Insiders every Wednesday. The pod comes out daily. We have a pod come out daily. It's a video show twice a week as well. And then also rotoballer.com, doing a lot of stuff over there. I have a podcast over there called Florio's Football Show that in season comes out every Tuesday. And when I'm not, I'm also sometimes on SiriusXM with Scott the King Engel. Just you get it, Jakey. Just trying to stay as busy as possible.
Just trying to stay. Hey, before we jump into this, do the Mets get Soto?
Yes, I think so.
You do?
Do you?
I don't want to get my hopes up. Like the first sign, like this is how you know I've come full circle on coming back to Mets fandom, is that as much as it doesn't really move an entire needle, like I actually got excited about the Montas signing. Like that's where I'm at. Like they signed Frankie Montas, and I'm like that feels like a good deal, like they made last year with Minaya and Severino. I'm like that feels like a nice little reclamation project.
I keep seeing people tweet like, oh, he's not good, and I'm like, none of that matters, because the Mets are going to teach him a sweeper, they'll change his arm angle about a half a degree, and then he'll go on to dominate in the second half. So I'm with you. I was excited.
I hope so. And yes, as you can tell, Florio still pays attention to baseball as well. But again, talking football.
Mostly the Mets.
Mostly the Mets. I'm hoping. I'm really hoping. But let's talk about my team in football, that ever since they drafted Daniel Jones, I moved to the Texans, and I haven't gone back like I've gone back with the Mets.
They got rid of Jones, though.
I still have to see what they do in the draft first. I told Nicole they still first of all need a top 2 pick so they get Ward or Sanders, and not I keep joking about it. I said they're going to win another game or two, fall out. Both of them are going to be off the board, and they're going to make the mistake of drafting like Beck or Nussmeier and be right down the same path they just did with Daniel Jones. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Like I'm calling it now. Tommy DeVito back at quarterback. No, I want to talk about the Texans and CJ Stroud. Now, they're on a bye, but I want to put this out there because it's kind of something people might not think about because they're on a bye. So people have to make plans. You know this. You have Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, and others. But Stroud on a bye, how worried are you with this play that, like, you maybe say, if you even made it this far with Stroud, Mike, do you just drop Stroud and not even pick him back up for the playoff run at this point? Like, it's that bad where the fact that Bryce Young is outscoring him the past 2 weeks with the resurgence of Bryce Young. Actually, I guess maybe the best ever of Bryce Young. But the point being is that's how bad it is for Stroud that, like, you have to make another plan for this week. Would your plan, Florio, just find somebody else and be done with him?
Yes, that 100. I do not think CJ Stroud is startable at any point the rest of the way. Since I believe it's week 7, he is averaging 11 fantasy points per game. And I had him I got sucked back in last week, Jake. I had him as a start. I was very excited for him. I was like, it is the best matchup for a quarterback. It is one that he is historically dominant. I know he's only in year 2, but he has dominated them in his early career so far. And then even more, they do not generate a whole bunch of pressure at all. And that, to me, was the biggest thing. 5 throws yesterday, he was under pressure, and he still did not produce for fantasy. Less than 15 fantasy points once again. And we were talking about it today on NFL Fantasy Football Show with Marcus and Laquan. And it's funny you bring up Bryce Young because we were like, okay, you're not going to play CJ Stroud in his next couple of matchups, but in week 17, he gets the Ravens. Like, on paper, fantastic matchup. And I was like, I don't trust it because they could get after the quarterback. They're going to get a lot of pressure, stuff like that. Bryce Young plays the Bucs in week 17. We all said we would play, as of right now, we would play Bryce Young against the Bucs over CJ Stroud in championship week, which tells me all you need to know about CJ Stroud right now.
I agree with you. It's funny. On SiriusXM today, I had a good friend, EY, who was on with Dane for segments. And I was like, this is the segment we played is, would you trust? And I said, trust in for the playoffs. And I threw out the caveat and saying, like, hey, you have to trust some of these guys, but that includes possibly playing this week. And I was including, like, hey, this has to go far as Bryce Young's weapons of Adam Thielen, which we're going to talk about in this show. But yeah, Bryce Young in week 17, seeing that Buccaneers matchup, I can't disagree with you. And we're actually going to get back to it. We're going to get back to it. But real quickly, I want to throw out 3 more real quick. Breece Hall, and Breece Hall had admittedly himself, he was like, hey, I can't be on the field if I can't hold on to the ball. You don't want to hear a player being like, hey, I shouldn't be on the field. But at the same time, had the injuries, had the fumble. We've had Braylon Allen show up at times throughout the year. They got Isaiah Davis involved, as you saw. Odunze, who since Keenan Allen has awakened his ghost of the past and has become Keenan Allen again, and this new offense getting out quick, so Odunze's kind of fallen to the side. And Cade Otton the past 2 games since Mike Evans has been back after their bye. Of those 3, if you had to say who you're the most concerned about, is it Odunze? Is it as simple as Odunze is now falling away, kind of like JSN from last year?
Yeah, that's it for me because not only, like you said, Keenan Allen looks the same again, and the volume's been very up and down for Odunze, but he has just 3 games this year in PPR with double-digit fantasy points. So a tough matchup this week against the 49ers, who are really good against out-wide wide receivers. So I have him in a few spots. I was excited for him coming into the year. I have dropped him where I have him because we're getting to the time of the year. And Jake, I know you know this very well, where, like, I think your bench spots, because if you don't have a bunch of buys this week, I think your bench spots are better suited trying to chase, like, running back handcuffs in case of an injury. So that I've kind of transitioned into that point of my season. And that means I'm cutting Odunze in some places. Breece Hall, I think you just go down with the ship. Like, he's still getting too much volume, and there's still too much upside there. Like, you can't trade him anymore. Don't draft him top 5 pick next year, but I think you just got to keep starting him. Cade Otton, I'm giving him this week, and if he doesn't produce, then I'm cutting bait because the Raiders have been torched by tight ends as of late. Yeah. So he almost caught a touchdown yesterday on Sunday. I have some hope, but if it doesn't happen this week, it's over.
Yeah, so the interesting thing was 10% target share the first game back, 20.6 yesterday / 2 days ago, depending on when you're listening to this. But that was tied with Shepard. So, of course, across the two games, he's actually behind Shepard and Evans in target share. So, concerning there, I will say the one positive and why I'm with you and why I'm keeping him in, he'll be inside my top 10 of it again this week at tight end. And to actually bring up the CJ Stroud thing, I had him at QB 10. That was the highest I think I had him since about week 8, and that failed. So, I was with you on that one. But Otton, 2 red zone and 1 end zone target this week after zeros the week prior. So it's still there, as you mentioned, could have had the touchdown, and it's tight end. Like, I mean, what are you really going to do? But like, if you can't do it against the Raiders, then I know I had your boy Laquan on. I know you got like a nice little interesting bet here with Otton versus Laquan. What happens if it's Otton? Do you have to shave your head or something? Like, is there anything on your side of the deal?
Otton was just the closest tight end to passing Jonnu Smith. Like in
okay. It just has to be Jono top 5. That's it.
Top 5, and he has to die. And there's no counter bet because he just said it. Like he was like, if he's top 5, he said he will be top 5 this year, and when he is, I'll dye my hair blonde. And me and Marcus were like, we're gonna hold you to that, not thinking it would ever actually happen. And then not only is he top 5 right now, he is 2 points away from surpassing Travis Kelce and being the tight end 4. So fingers crossed that this run continues because I want to see Laquan looking like Slim Shady.
Are you doing full PPR or half PPR for this so I can keep watch?
We're doing
Full
NFL standard, which is now PPR, even though it's confusing to say.
Wow, I didn't realize he's that close. If we have 4 points from Kelce, I didn't realize he was that close to Kelce. That's insane. So he's got
right now is
Otton's now almost 20 back, 18 back, and Andrews is 12 back. Ooh, this is.
But Andrews and Ertz are the closest two, and they're on bye this week. And we're going total points, not points per game. So that gap is going to get even bigger.
See, he made that mistake too. Is that you can't do total points on top of it. He just he screwed himself multiple ways over on that. Although, like you said, who expected it? All right, bad news. Like I think we have to do this. Is look the Christian McCaffrey. This is also, by the way, somebody who traded for Christian McCaffrey in my home league to try and win the ship this year, and it's been going down quickly. To give you an idea, Florio, like for everybody out there that's like, we feel your pain because we play in a ton of leagues, obviously. And in my home league, I was like, I couldn't wait on super flex, couldn't wait on Brock Purdy because I have to like basically win out to make the playoffs, even with double headers because I had such terrible luck. Like whatever it is, Florio, every I'm not even kidding. Every week for like 4 straight weeks, the opponent had their highest score of their season. Like it was like they showed up to play Jake. It's the worst thing ever. Anyway, so I couldn't wait on Purdy, so I sent Purdy. Or no, I didn't send Purdy. I sent Tua and Josh Jacobs for Tony Pollard and Hurts. It was really to get Hurts. Well, so I traded away Jacobs, and now I lost Christian McCaffrey, and I would have won anyway with Tua and Jacobs to play in for So, like, as you can see, like, we feel your pain. It goes wrong for us, too. But that being said, Christian McCaffrey, and it's not just Christian McCaffrey, it is also Jordan Mason. So I know my answer. The waiver column is out. It's as simple for me as all in. I don't care if you have $20, $40, $99. I'm putting every single one on Isaiah Guerendo to get him. Are you with me on this?
Yep, I am so with you that, like most normal people, I set my waivers on Tuesdays. Like I spend Monday writing, start and sit 'em all day and stuff like that. When I saw the news about Jordan Mason, I put down my laptop and went into every league that I'm in to see if he was available and put
just
every
to make
last
sure
tab dollar I had. Just because in case by some chance I forget or something like that, I want to make sure I have all of my chips in on him. Because I agree. I think he is the biggest pickup the rest of the year. Like maybe another star running back gets hurt, but like this one is here. It is now. It's a great running attack. Even with the banged up O-line. Yeah, I'm completely with you.
Yeah, because even so, like going forward, maybe Braylon Allen, who we talked about, like maybe he's out there and Breece all gets hurt. But at the same time, it's going to be like, what's at that point? Is it Braylon Allen going to match Guerendo? You're on the 49ers. And I also think Guerendo, I said this when they were drafted, is that Guerendo, I think, is the perfect running back fit stylistically for a Shanahan offense. Like the way that he runs fits that offense extremely well, in my opinion. But that's the thing. It's like you can look down this list and you'd be like, okay, if Bijan Robinson gets hurt, is Algier even of this level? We've seen Algier do it, but at the same time, there's a different Falcons offense, Kirk Cousins system. Real quick, Kirk Cousins, Are you giving him another chance? He's got the revenge game. I'm trying to find somebody to come with me on this one. Like, here's why. You got the Falcons going to Minnesota for a revenge game, and I know the Minnesota defense is good, but after that, Raiders, Giants, Commanders. Like, I feel like at the same time, I said this on Sirius XM too, and I said it looks like he's throwing a 10-pound football. Like, it looks like he's struggling to throw it. But at the same time, I'm like, but he was fine. Like, he was fine the first half of the season, and it wasn't only the Buccaneers. Like, he beat teams he should beat. Played well against the Eagles, but the Eagles defense wasn't good at that point. But all that being said, is like, there's nothing left. There's nothing left for him, Florio. Cousins is toast.
Look, you said they great playoff schedule. I'm like, cool. Let Michael Penix enjoy it because, like, what are we doing? Like, that's the thing. And when I wrote about this in Stardom Situm today, I was like, look, you could tell me that the Vikings, they allow a lot of yards and stuff like that. You cannot take away what my eyes watched on Sunday. And it not only was it four interception games are awful, but like we've seen good quarterbacks have like 3-4 interception games before. Yeah. It was the way I keep saying it. Like, if you didn't watch this game, do not say that like, oh, it wasn't as bad as like, go watch it. It is one of the worst quarterback performances I've seen in recent years. Like, every ball was a duck. There's no velocity on it. He cannot move. Forget scrambling. He cannot even move in the pocket. Like, him and Aaron Rodgers, this Achilles injury, they are just not the same guy anymore. I know they're both older in age and stuff like that, but it just seems like both of them stick a fork in it. It's been a fun ride. It's over. And yeah, get Penix in there because I just
don't see it unless they're out of the playoffs. I can't see them going like, you know what, we're still a playoff contender. Let's turn to the rookie. Like, because even if like the only rookie quarterback this year, not that, there's a ton there. I mean, there honestly is a ton, but the only one that hit the ground running, no pun intended, is Daniels. Nix took time. Drake May took time. Caleb Williams took more than half the season. Actually took an offensive coordinator and offense change. So they all took time. So, like, I just can't see the Falcons going like, you know what, let's see if Penix can hit the ground running. It takes 2 games, and then at that point, now we've actually knocked ourselves out of the playoffs. Which, that's the biggest thing. Is like, the NFC is only tight for like 2 playoff spots, and it's really only about 4 teams. The Falcons are still right there. And that I'm with you in the fact of like, if they had an extra loss or 2, but I just don't think they're going to do it. Yeah, that's why.
I completely agree. I think they should, and I think I would make the argument that helps you get into the playoffs better. But with the schedule that they have after this week, I agree. I think they can make.
They don't even need Cousins.
The veteran quarterback is the one that's going to get us in. But once you're in with Kirk Cousins, that is your absolute ceiling.
Yes. And like even that schedule, I mean, you could just probably lean on Bijan and Algier for half the game, and then throw like the old like Justin Fields offense, and not even ask Kirk Cousins to throw much. Let's go back to running backs. The interesting thing is Jonathon Brooks was supposed to be a potential league winner, as you know, at the beginning of the season. I'm not. Did you say that? I wasn't saying if you were saying it or not.
No. I wrote an article, biggest league.
Oh, you just muted yourself. What happened to your microphone?
Wait, I did.
Good old StreamYard. Did StreamYard get you in the middle of the show?
It might have.
Oh no, you're there. There you go.
Oh, I'm here. Okay.
So, yeah, there you go.
I wrote an article in August, biggest league winners for 2024, and Jonathon Brooks was number 1. In my defense, Jaden Daniels was number 2. But
yes.
Yeah,
look, you weren't alone. That's why I said that. It's not like you were the only one out there champion to stash Jonathon Brooks. Like I said, as in somebody who was actually, I would consider myself on the far side of league winner. I still said, here's hoping he has a Cam Akers like December from 2 years ago. And that's what I was like, I know you don't want to hear Cam Akers, but let's also remember that one December, it was 4 straight games of like RB1 production. And that's kind of what we're hoping. So I'm presenting all that to say, like, no matter what you were in, like even me being on the least side of it, I was still in on Jonathon Brooks. I did not expect this for Chuba Hubbard. I didn't expect Chuba Hubbard to get a massive relative to running backs contract. However, it all seemed to be like, this isn't happening this year. Maybe Jonathon Brooks next year. Maybe it's a timeshare next year. And then week 12 or 13 comes around, and Chuba Hubbard in a tasty matchup lays an egg, relatively. And Jonathon Brooks looked better in that game. Very explosive with that one pass catch I'm sure you saw. Are we potentially heading towards a timeshare at the worst time possible when we were like, you know what? You can actually trust Chuba Hubbard as your RB2. And now we hit the playoffs and it's like, oh no, you can't.
I don't. We're not at that point yet. We could be heading to it because of how good and how talented Jonathon Brooks is. Like you said, he looked better yesterday. That very explosive, and that's what we all loved about him coming in to the NFL this year. And 6 carries, he had 3 targets. Chuba wasn't involved in the passing game, but Hubbard did still play 79% of the snaps. So I don't think we're close to that yet. But we could be heading to a point where Brooks has some standalone value, I think. I don't think Chuba ever goes away and you can't start him or anything like that. But if Bryce Young continues to play well, they have a very easy schedule moving forward. So, like this week, Jake, I have to decide in flex. Lost Austin Eckler, who's been my RB2 all year. I have Jonathon Brooks, Ray Davis, you name Kamani Vidal. All of the rookies that did not hit have been on my bench all year. Or Gus Edwards. And I'm like, I might just go Jonathon Brooks for fun. Like, that's where I'm at this week.
I think Gus Edwards' ceiling is he has to score. So that's I don't have a problem with it. You know what? You bring up Vidal. So I put this list here, and I included Jerry McNichols, who's on a bye, obviously. I'm surprised his rostership was so low. Not so much because people didn't expect him to do anything in the Eckler role, which he did. He was Austin Eckler light. He wasn't quite. No intent to rhyme there. But the fact that we were heading into this game and Brian Robinson was questionable and still McNichols is only like 20, 30% rostered, which was crazy. And I was like, maybe, all right, then maybe that many leagues are just out of it and teams are just out of it. I don't know what it is. But if I told you McNichols, Vidal, Jalen Wright, who now just lost his role again to Raheem Mostert, that keeps going back and forth. Chris Rodriguez, who's way down, he just got garbage time for that same team as McNichols, or Isaiah Davis, who we brought up before. Of all of those, is Vidal the easiest one for you? Is that the one you're going to grab, or is it McNichols? Because unless I need somebody this week, I would actually make the case of McNichols over Vidal, just because stupid Haskins is getting past blocking snaps taken away, or taking them away from Vidal.
Yeah, I hate that. Like, I have been a sucker for Kamani Vidal all year. He was one of my most drafted running backs. I don't love, and like you said, it was a lot of garbage time and stuff yesterday, but I didn't love the usage for McNichols yesterday, and even more than that, because of everything you said. Like, no Eckler, Brian Robinson was limited, and Chris Rodriguez, like, yes, it happened in a blowout, but like he still had way more involvement than I would have liked to see as a McNichols supporter. So I see what you like about Jerry McNichols, and the opportunity is there. But again, I'm a sucker for Vidal and for the because Gus Edwards is what he is at this point. He is a plotter, and I think I know they won because of Kirk Cousins, but what the Chargers offense was missing yesterday outside of Ladd McConkey when he exited was that explosiveness from the run game. And Gus Edwards does not have that. Haskins does not have that. So I still hold out some hope that maybe it takes a big run or something like that, but that they'll see the Chargers will be like, all right, this guy is our most explosive playmaker from the running back position right now. We need to get him more involved.
All right, fair enough. I'm with you. I can see going, like I said, if I don't need, I think the ceilings with Vidal, I just don't think the opportunities are going to be there. And so, I could go either way. Like, put it this way. If you have a gut feeling one way or the other, if you trust Florio, the beam people listening, more than me on this one, I'm not going to even hate you for it. Like, I could see myself almost, if I was in 8 leagues, kind of even divesting, taking 4 and 4 just in case, depending on what I say. Yeah. So let's talk a few wide receivers before we get out of here and let you get back to your awesome life out there in California, which, hey, real quick, do you like that? I could never, doing this job, I would absolutely, I know the argument is sports are over and you can go to bed, but I could never do I feel like you have to be up at 5 o'clock every day because everything's already started on our side of things, let alone what happens to you with the London games. Do you actually like it out there better than the East Coast, or would you want to, if you could do NFL Network on the East Coast, would you?
I would, because then I would be near like my family and friends. But sports times wise, Pacific is better than East Coast. Like, Sundays kick off at 10 a.m., which is awesome. Like, when I was back on the East Coast,
unless it's London. Then you have to wake up at 5:30.
I will admit, those 4 or whatever Sundays it is with international games, I hate setting that alarm. I hate it. But the rest of the Sundays, like when I was back east one Sunday, I was like, you guys really wait till 1 o'clock? Like, I forgot what that was like. Although, you'll get, like, for Mets and Knicks, it's awful because 4 p.m. is, like, a terrible start time.
Yeah. It's good and bad. Maybe the best is, like, probably, like, Central Time.
That's what I've been told, and I could see it.
Because you get that extra hour, but like you're still kind of close enough. All right, wide receivers as we so this is going to be worth watching. We have Thursday night football. This is not a short week, as I mentioned on the Wraparound podcast, but it is a Thursday game for Romeo Doubs to try and come back from. So he has the full week realistically, but it's not 2 full weeks from when the injury happened. So anyway, that being said, we have Christian Watson, who I think you'll agree is an easy. He would be a boomer bust wide receiver 4, but now with 6 teams on a bye, boomer bust wide receiver 3. Shaking head, yes. So I know you agree there. But like down this road, if Doubs comes back, does Watson go right back to your bench even with all the buys? And then if Doubs is out, does Wicks come into play for you at all because of what he can do on even limited snaps?
If Doubs is active, I would play him over Watson, and I would sit Watson because the Lions play man coverage, I believe, at the highest rate, but if it's not, it's like second or third.
Super high.
Yeah, and Doubs has been their man beater this year and has the best numbers against man coverage. So I think because of that, I would play him over Watson. If he's out, yeah, I agree with you. Watson then is like a boom or bust wide receiver 3, but like if you're deciding between boom or bust options, I would take the shot on MVS over him this week. I'm a MVS
We're gonna get
believer.
to him.
And Wicks, I don't know, man. I have Wicks in a decent amount of leagues, and it's frustrating because like there's been a lot of weeks where he's had the opportunity and he doesn't. Not a lot, but a couple of weeks where he's had the opportunity and doesn't come through. And then there's weeks where I'm like, he's gonna be buried on the depth chart, and like you said, with limited snaps, he still hits. So because of the week 6 teams on bye, and because of the matchup, and it could be a score fest, he would be in play, but he's more of like a high upside, low floor flex play, I think.
Okay. Then, yes, I agree. And I think the Doubs being back, I think that pecking order just kind of stays the same from what we've known, especially as you mentioned, against the Lions with that play. So MVS comes into play with another one. It can't continue. And we've said this, though, Florio, for the last 3 weeks. It can't continue for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Somehow, it keeps continuing. Interestingly enough, I'm glad you brought up MVS because I can't get Dane to come around on MVS. I've been trying for like 3 weeks. And I said, like, he argued that he would actually take the chance in Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, but I was saying, if you actually look at it, the touchdown to target percentage, neck and neck at 21% and 20 and change for MVS. The touchdown to reception percentage, 40% for both of them. The main difference is that Westbrook-Ikhine gets an extra 2-ish targets per game. So yes, MVS is more volatile of the two, but now you have yet another option out for the Saints and no Taysom Hill, and Derek Carr is going to continue to take shots. So if I put it, I'm going to put the onus on you this way, Florio. The rest of the season, you have to put your hair, similar to your boy Laquan did, you have to put your hair on the line of Westbrook-Ikhine or MVS, who actually keeps it going? And I know when you say keeps it going, you're not actually saying a touchdown per game. Just who actually stays as a wide receiver 3 the rest of the way? Ikhine or MVS?
MVS. One, I trust the quarterback more. Like you said, Derek Carr is going to air it out. I keep saying it. MVS is the new Rashid Shaheed in that offense. Like
that's what I said.
Yeah, and Shaheed is one of the best home run hitters in football. So the opportunity is going to be there. Without Taysom Hill, like you said, potentially more volume up for grabs there. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has 20 catches this year, 8 of which are touchdowns, and he has tied, I believe it is the Titans franchise record with A.J. Brown for most touchdown catches in an 8-game span with 8. Like, that's just not going to keep up. But this week, and Jake, look, as a former Giants fan, you know this probably very well. The Giants are the worst team against the deep ball in football. 68%, I believe, of deep passes have been completed against them. Like, that's because they start this week because 6 teams on bye. He is the kind of player that if he hits, he could completely flip your week. And going this deep anyway. Like, why not take the upside shot?
So, yes, I know that. A couple things on the Giants is the secondary was already weak, and then they lost more pieces throughout this year. So much so that a good friend of ours, and I won't call him out for this in case he doesn't want me sharing it, but I think you'll know, I call him the best scout in the business. I'll give you a big hint on who he is.
Okay.
But it texted me during training camp and said, this Giants secondary is doomed. They have a number 2 playing the number 1 spot. Talking about Banks playing the number 1 corner spot. He's like, Banks would be so good in a 2, but they don't have a 1, and it's just going to be a trickle down. And he called it, and like he knew it, and I agreed with him, and we've seen it so far. So I will say this. I'm going to try and play devil's advocate real quick. The Titans do have Jaguars, Bengals, Colts, Jaguars the rest of the way. That doesn't like make it a little close for you that maybe it could happen? Or is this just now about to be Calvin Ridley's season, who left about 95 yards on the field again last week?
I'm a sucker for Calvin Ridley, so I'm going to take him because one, I have him on a bunch of teams, so I need him. But like he is, I believe he is a very, very talented wide receiver, and if he just had some more consistent quarterback play the last couple of years, maybe the results would be better. But yeah, please let it translate to even more than Calvin Ridley, though, Jake. It's going to be Tony Pollard's season.
Can only hope. I made that stupid trade, so I kind of need that bounce back. I hope so. Couple more, like these are going to be like quick. It's actually 2-ish, 2.5-ish. So Carolina Panthers. We already talked. Bryson Young has been playing a lot better. Adam Thielen went right back to first half 2023. Adam Thielen last week, and yes, that was a touchdown. Everybody knows it.
It was.
That being said, up until this game, it had been the wonderful interview, just because you need subtitles, Xavier Legette. If anybody's never seen him interview, please go watch, because you do need subtitles. It's actually hilarious. But Legette had been the guy. Are we quickly just one game was enough? Because this first game back, he had 20, that being Thielen, had 20 fewer routes than David Moore. Second game back, he's back to being Adam Thielen. But we saw this fall off last year and just disappeared in the second half. So are you trusting Thielen as the one for the Panthers going forward? Because he's available in like 70% of leagues.
Yes, I think so. Like, I think 2 weeks ago was the ramp up period for him. Older wide receiver coming back from injury, stuff like that. Now, we could hit a floor, a wall, with him. But I think the fact that he had time off is a good thing for his legs. They are fresh at this time of year. And you speak of good schedules. I'm pulling up right now. Look, I'm sitting Adam Thielen this week because the Eagles are statistically the best secondary in football this year. But then they get the Cowboys, the Cardinals, and week 17 they get that rematch against the Bucks. So yeah, Adam Thielen is a player I don't want in my starting lineup in week 14, but I very much so want on my roster because he could, if nothing else, he could come through for you in week 17.
All right, well then, Florio, you know what I need you to do. Very small version one. It's a very small one, but I need you to make a list. Just 3. That's all I need you to do. Just 3. Nick Westbrook-Akina, MVS, Adam Thielen. Rank the 3 for the rest of the season.
Rest of season, I'll go Thielen, MVS, Nick Westbrook-Akina. But if I just need someone, a bye-week replacement for week 14.
For this week, it is
I'm going MVS.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I'm with you on that. All right. That 1.5 more as we get out of here. This is near and dear, if you're watching the YouTube stream, to Florio's heart, as the Bills helmet is sitting right behind him. And we are not going to talk about the fact that he wants his quarterback, instead of the true MVP in Lamar Jackson, to be the MVP.
It's not going to Lamar. Too many losses.
No, it's not going to Lamar because of fatigue. It deserves to go to Lamar for what he's done this year. He's passed more. He has the most passing yards and passing touchdowns. If not just his career, he's leading the NFL. Like, he's doing it with his arm too, throwing to a bunch of jabronis.
Who led the NFL in yards and touchdowns last year?
Oh, that was last year.
Josh Allen didn't win it last year.
Oh, well, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, Lamar's even upped himself. Anyway, that's a completely different debate.
I thought he was going to win it, I'll be honest. But I've never wavered on my picks. I've always.
You know what
Josh
it is?
Allen.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be give it to Josh Allen this year because it should have been last year, and Lamar should get it this year, so it's okay because they both got it anyway. Is that we can agree? I'll give you that.
Because people kept being like, "Oh, well, Lamar's like like, yes, his stats, but MVP is a narrative award, and no digs. They lost all those players on defense all year. I've been like, the storyline is there for Allen to run away with it if he has a good year.
And of course, the voters don't like to vote for the same people over and over again. Hell, that's why Derrick Rose has an MVP and LeBron James got screwed. And that's coming from somebody who used to root for the Bulls at that time and still didn't think that Derrick Rose deserved that MVP. But anyway,
how many of your teams have you quit on?
2. No,
2.5, because it was partially for the Mets too.
The Mets were put on hiatus until they sold the team. That's just what it was. It was like, I put them in the corner. They got put in the closet, basically. Like, you go into timeout. Whatever the wilderness retreat that Aaron Rodgers went on, that's where they went. It was like, you need to go away. I'm not, like, I didn't pick a new baseball team. I rooted for others. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to see the Padres win the World Series. Didn't happen. I was like, that kind of stuff. But I never was like, you're completely gone. The only 2 teams I've been completely gone from are the Bulls, because they're a terrible organization who keeps being happy about the 8th and 9th seed, and they don't know what to do with themselves, and just not blowing it up, or pick one or the other. Stop playing this middle road, because you know what happens? You sit on the fence, and what happens when you sit on the fence? One of the pokes go right up you know where. The other is because they drafted Daniel Jones, and when they drafted Daniel Jones, I said, you know what? I'll give him 1 year. You can go back and check the tape. You know this. You knew that. You've known me forever. I said I'll give him 1 year in case I'm wrong about Daniel Jones. But that 1 year, that rookie season, was enough to say, you know what, I'm done. And John Mara's not going to change. He wants another. If John Mara could draft Arch Manning's rights this year with the number 1 pick and then just not even get him till he came out of college, he would do it. That's all he wants. He just wants another damn Manning. That's the problem. Anyway, look, see what you did to me, Florio.
That's what I do. I ask questions to get you fired up.
I see that. All right, I wanted to talk about your Bills. Keon Coleman didn't return this week. So you obviously, for everybody out there, is like, I watch every play of my team. Florio and I, everybody who does this, have a hat on as guests. We watch every play of every single team, of every single whatever. But there is a truth to be said that we do know our own teams better than we know the other 31, because we know our backups to the backups to the backups, because we are fans like everybody else. So the Keon Coleman situation, if he actually comes back, where are you going in this direction? Because the snow game's kind of tough to put a barometer on. Amari Cooper wasn't out there for 80% of the snaps, so you could say he's not fully integrated. At the same time, it was a weird game. Was anybody really out there that much? Not even Shakir led, but it was kind of weird. So if Coleman's back, he was starting to break out before he got hurt, but that was also before Cooper was fully integrated. So if you knew Coleman was back, is he the pickup here? Is it like he's going to be better than Cooper, or do you think that Cooper's veteran presence is still going to kind of hold back what Coleman was starting to finally do?
I think it's probably a situation where they eat off of each other's plates. In the sense of, like, the deep ball they're going to take the deep shots to Amari Cooper. Coleman, and that's something that Coleman was doing well early on. Like, he could still get 1 or 2, but a lot of those design deep plays, I believe, are going to go to Amari Cooper. It's been the one area he has excelled in since he's come over. But I don't believe we have seen the fully acclimated Amari Cooper yet, because, like you said, this week was a really weird game with the weather. Prior to that, he had the wrist injury and was out. And then prior to that, he was learning everyone's names and stuff like that. So I do think, though, for real life, Amari Cooper's presence helps Keon Coleman, takes defensive attention away, doesn't make him like where he has to be their outside wide receiver, because now he can play in the slot a little bit more, stuff like that. But for fantasy, a lot of mouths to be fed, and I still believe Khalil Shakir is going to be their top target because of what he brings to that team. He's the most reliable option out there. There's a clear chemistry between him and Josh Allen. So he is the number one, the one I want most for fantasy. The other two might be bigger play threats, maybe bring up higher ceiling, but Shakir I think his ceiling is underrated and the floor is so secure.
All right, and I agree. Actually, it's funny that you said the slot is because back before the breakout even started, I actually went on, like, not a rant, but like a little mini, like, this is what they're doing wrong with Keon Coleman, and I said they need to use him like Michael Thomas with the Saints, and that's like Agreed. That big slot, like, and that's kind of what they did when Cooper came in, and that's, as you saw, like, again, it wasn't that Cooper was out there a ton, but they started using him that way. Coleman a lot more so 2025 with that thought in mind, just putting back people's head. All right, so the last one before we get you out of here, which I appreciate you spending an extra 10 minutes. I told you 30, but we're going 40. Joshua Palmer because we have Lad McConkey who's battling through. I'm sure he was your boy too, but he was actually one of my like draft boys this year. I have a ton of Lad McConkey, good, but shoulder. Injuries galore. Kudos to him to playing through it, but there's now talk he might miss time. So I bring up Joshua Palmer also because Quentin Johnston, just the inconsistency. Like, actually, if you saw, and I wasn't saying it to you because I know you did, but for everybody out there, if you saw that game, Justin Herbert actually looks like he's trusting Joshua Palmer in the red zone over Quentin Johnston at this point, despite him being the 3. So that's why I bring up Joshua Palmer, because we want to talk about deeper leagues for the playoffs here, somebody that you have to stash. So Quentin Johnston, because he's still out there in a ton of leagues because people hate him, and it's because of the drops. Michael Wilson, who actually got some slot work himself and got moved around, and it's like, oh, look, Michael Wilson, now he has more ways to get open, actually had one of his better games this season. Maybe that's something to watch. Palmer, or what was the one other one? Oh, Demario Douglas. So I just fear it's like floor. Like, I have put Demario Douglas has been in the waiver column since day one. Nobody wants Demario Douglas. You know why? Because they're probably reading my column for the people that why he's not there. It's because I'm like, I don't want him. Why do I want 7 points? What am I going to do with 7 points? I want the ceiling. So I'm throwing him out. Screw that. Florio, you don't even get to say Douglas. So if he's your answer, I'm sorry, but it's not. Joshua Palmer, Michael Wilson, Quentin Johnston. If you had to stash one right now, who would it be for the rest of the season?
Josh Palmer, because if McConkey does miss time, I think Palmer, like you said, becomes the de facto number 1 target, because I do believe he trusts him more, and I think that is Quentin Johnston's fault. Like, I am a QJ believer. I think that he has the fit. Look, I don't think he is a league winner, game changer, nothing elite like that, but I think he has the physical tools and skill set where he could be a weekly contributor, something like a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, touchdown upside, stuff like that. But I also think he has the yips right now. And I think it started on Monday Night Football when that ball hit him in the face mask, because that was going to be like a 20, 30 plus yard gain and in a huge spot. Then it just started, it started piling up and up and up. And I think it's in his head or whatever. I don't think his role changes. Like, I think he's their number 2 wide receiver if it's McConkey or Palmer as the 1. But that's why I would rather have Palmer. Wilson, I love as a real life player. He was a big sleeper of mine in last year's draft, but Trey McBride is going to get 1 million targets a game. Marvin Harrison is going to get that more valuable targets. So Wilson and is a lot like Douglas, I think, like someone that you can plug in if you're on a bye week or really banged up with injuries. But like, buys are behind us after this week. I don't think you're ever going to want to start him.
No, I wouldn't want to start him, but hopefully you do want. And by the way, as we get out of here, a quick reminder, the stuff over at FTN, over the Athletic, the articles, but not so much that, is that we're actually recording this during halftime-ish of Monday Night Football. So if something happens in the fourth quarter and you're like, why didn't you talk about it? That's why. So we'll talk about it later. You can always tweet at Michael F. Florio, the real Michael Florio. Catch him over the NFL Network and the podcast and the shows and everything. And just give him a follow. Tweets out everything like I do. And we'll be back on Wednesday for another special guest. The guests are just coming since Chris Meany left me. Jagger May will be on to talk ranks on Wednesday. So enjoy the rest of your week-ish. I don't know when you're listening to this, so whatever. Cut me off, Fox, at some point. I'm just going to keep babbling. This is what I do, Florio, until Fox just cuts me off.